definition of the paradigm is the way that you perceive something, the way that you believe something. And here's what Covey says. And before I say what Covey says, I want to share with you over 78% of all Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 corporations put their executives through the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People training for a reason, because it's profoundly changing. What Covey says is that the way that people perceive things, there's what's called a see, do, get model. You should write that down. You could Google Covey see, do, get. If you want change, so I'm going to speak to the OEM that's in the room. If you want change for your region, that's long-term change, not just initial superficial change, like, the OEM's on my back, I got to do what they got to say. If you want long-term change on an OEM level, if you were a dealer, GSM, or a corporate executive, if you want change, you don't try to just change the behavior, you've got to change the paradigm. You've got to change the perception of the team. That's where it starts, and easier said than done. Because if the dealer or the GM is saying, oh, go on this VinSolutions training and go do this and that, okay, yes, boss, but they're going to flim-flam it. How do we know? Because I personally set up over 500 VIN dealers. And one of the first things that we say is you got to go through the VIN basic training. They're like, okay, and then guess what happens? They don't. They don't do it point blank, or if they do, they're distracted. When they're doing the VIN, onboarding training, they're doing 50 million other things. People are asking them for ACVs on a trade, they're asking for deals, they're doing this, customer in the showroom, so it's fractional attention. How are you going to give fractional attention to the central nervous system? Because you're going to get fractional results. See how that works? We're fond of saying garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, well, if we garbage this from the beginning, from the perception, from the paradigm, from the attitude, then what do we expect from the CRM? It's not magic. It's only as good as what we set it up to be. Remember, we are the ones that are supposed to set this up. There's this misconception that it's VinSolutions' responsibility about processes. No, it's not. Anybody here have a nice house? I'm not going to do home invasion. You can tell me. Come on. Yes? Okay. Would you ever allow your contractors, your plumbers, to decorate your house? Yes or no? No? Good. For the record, I have a Puerto Rican wife, okay? There's no way in hell my wife, my queen, is going to allow my contractors to decorate the house, talk about the carpet, talk about the drapes. True or false? That's not VinSolutions' job. Their job is to give you the best product for you to customize, for you to use however you want. You can't get mad at Legos. And Vin, you could use this. Give me a check if you use this in any type of other public environment. But you can't get mad at the Lego people because I gave you a set of Lego bricks and you made an ugly, building. Okay, did you read the instructions? Probably not. Okay, that's the same thing with CRM. We are not reading the instructions. We're not going through the training the right way. We're not putting all the time that we're supposed to do into it. And then when we have mistakes or problems, we want to know why. And then here's the best one. Then we switch CRMs. It's like a salesperson on the floor that wants to leave and go to the other dealership down the block because they think they're going to make more money down the road, right? Sound familiar? Starts with culture. It starts with the paradigm. Because if you can start with, hey, CRM is powerful, CRM is what's going to differentiate our organization, CRM is going to help us get that unfair competitive advantage. And it starts from the dealer all the way down. And when does your job description become optional? We have a manufacturer here. I don't think that OEMs care what excuses you give. You either sold the cars or you didn't. You're either going to get the retro bonus or you don't, right or wrong. They're not trying to hear, but you know what, I meant to, and Scooby-Dooby-Doo and all. No, they don't want to hear it. So why are we allowing salespeople, BDC reps, or managers not to do CRM training, not to do any type of training, not to set it up the right way, not to use it the right way, not to log in ups, not to put notes in? We allow this. This is not a user issue. I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anybody. It's a management issue. I'm going to repeat what I just said. It's not a user issue. It is a management issue. Who agrees with that statement? Well, then keep that energy for the rest of the day because that's what the theme is. CRM is customer relationship management. Think of the emotional bank account. You can't go into TD Bank and say, I want to withdraw $10,000 from the bank unless what? Unless you already deposited 10 grand. Same concept. If all you're doing in the CRM is withdrawing from the emotional bank account, buy for me, service for me, refer to me, that's it. Mine. Who wants that person? You ever have somebody like this? Don't worry, I know him. But like, yo, you got $5? Come on, man, can I get them $5? Yo, I'll give it back to you. Can I get them $5?
Can I get the 5 I gave you last week?
Oh, snap. Yeah, my bad. Hey, can I borrow $10? Because out of the $10, I got to pay him $5, and can I? That's what we do in the CRMs. It makes no sense. We need to deposit into the emotional bank account of these prospects. CRMs, can anybody tell me what CRM stands for?
Customer relationship management.
That's great, you know it, right? Customer relationship management. Are we really managing relationships in CRM? Or are we using it as a desking tool, as a showroom login tool, as an internet lead management tool? It could do all those things, but it's not called the everything tool. It's not called the desking tool. It's called customer relationship management. And we are neglecting to cultivate, perpetuate positive, powerful relationships. And that needs to change because, again, if we don't do that, then what do? We have to throw all this money in leads and go from there. HR is a real issue. Pay close attention to what I'm about to say here. We've always had a problem with attrition in our industry. Staffing shortages mean leads, there's more leads than qualified people to handle them. Dealers can no longer stay profitable without a fully staffed and trained team. Sales and BDC teams with less than 4 years of experience don't understand the real world of grinding and competing and closing, of tough deals. 4 years they haven't needed to practice, drill, rehearse. Let me explain what that means. Since the pandemic happened, what happened? We went from flooding the floors to not having the floors flooded because we didn't need to. We went from doing a bunch of bell-to-bells and working late to we don't need to do that. Why? Because if we had the cars, we could what? Sell them at list or over list. True or false? Okay, now everybody's like, it's hard out there in the streets right now. It's pretty rough. And so now it's like, okay, what do? The people that are there, they don't have the experience pre-pandemic. So they don't know what to do because when we were trying to train them, they're like, I don't need to train. These fish are jumping in the boat and they're fat. How are you going to try to train? How are you going to try to teach somebody how to fish if the fish are jumping in the boat and they're fat? Now, these fishes have been on Ozempic, right? They're really, 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 really thin right now. And people don't know what to do because they're not prepared. So not only do we have less people, but we have less qualified people. Is that an accurate statement? Okay. And I just was speaking to a couple of people. There's a dealer here that has 500 leads from 3 stores. Okay, great. They're selling about 30 or 40 cars. Not so great, but what makes it really scary is, okay, if we ran a report on November 1st, a couple days ago, let's go back in time, right? And we ran a report, how many active leads do we have as of November 1st? Because remember, the average buying cycle on a new car is post 90 days still, post 90 days. So my estimate is that it'll be about 1,000 leads, 900 to 1,000 leads minimum, right? You're going to start November 1st with. And then from November 1st to end of November 1st, you get another 500. So in this month of November, that store is going to have at least 1,400 to 1,500 opportunities. Does that make sense math-wise? Most dealerships do not have the infrastructure to handle the fresh leads, never mind the residual flow factor. That's how Bob Ruth Ford went from 75 units to 356 units a month out of the internet department, out of population 2,500, because their infrastructure is there to be able to handle the carryover leads and the fresh leads. Does this make sense? Okay. This is where CRM will help you. If your CRM is set up correctly with the right processes, action plans, details, and artificial intelligence, it's like having more people on your team. Okay, this strategy can be a complete game changer for you. Okay, the buying cycle, as I mentioned, is over 90 days, meaning that the residual flow factor, the carryover leads, are massive opportunities for dealerships. Okay, now, I'm going to show you some scorecards. Okay, this store, look at this. We took the store from 75 cars as well maybe 70, 75, to 292. But this is how it looks like. They got 949 active leads as of the first of the month. 949 active leads, and then they got 1,651 fresh leads. Here's the BDC. These are BDC reps. We call them internet coordinators at our company. But my gosh, look at this, 28,000. And remember, all I'm looking for in here is outbound calls. We're not even tracking for this spreadsheet here, text messages, videos, and all that, just on the call side, okay? But look at how high this was, because this was several years ago. Back then, a couple years ago, the connection rate was 11.79. When I go to the next slide, it's gonna floor you, it's like half of that. But here are the KPIs. 28,000 outbound calls, 3,300 connections, 945 appointments, 589 people showed, 292 deliveries. Okay, now let's go to the next one. See here, look at how it dropped. Why? Because more people are not answering the phones. More people are not calling you back. Why? Because they're getting spam called, and they're getting this, and they're getting that, and there's other forms of communication. You've got phone calls, emails, text messages, social media DMs, Facebook DM, IG DM, WhatsApp DM, TikTok DM. You've got e-cards. You've got Apple FaceTime. Now, there are other CRMs have content asset libraries for memes and animated GIFs. Sean, you lost me. I was there, and then you're talking about all this other. Look, bottom line is this. You need to start to communicate with people the way that human beings communicate. There are children that are in first grade that are using social media DMs to communicate with their families, to communicate with their grandparents, to communicate with their teachers. Yes or no? Okay, there are senior citizens in their 90s that are using social media. Yes or no? So then why are we only focused on freaking phone calls, emails, and text messages? We need to be empowering every one of our salespeople and every one of our BDC reps to leverage every aspect of communication. One more time, phone calls, emails, text messages, video text messages, social media DMs. I'm gonna go through it again. Facebook DM, LinkedIn DM, TikTok DM, Instagram DM, WhatsApp DM, any way possible, but all we're doing is one-dimensional. J.D. Power also says that the average prospect is searching 9 to 11 other dealerships and websites. For example, if I am looking at a Toyota Camry, if I'm looking at a 2025 Toyota Camry, statistically speaking, I might be looking at least one other Toyota dealership, but absolutely 75 to 78% of the times, I'm gonna be looking at a Honda Accord, I'm gonna be looking at the Kia, the Hyundai, or the Chevy, or the Ford, etc. Does this make sense? When you go back to your stores, you got to train your people and get them to understand that you are not the only person that's dealing with these ups. You're not. So you have to engage them with the knowledge that somebody is just as hungry as you, or somebody is more desperate for you to make their commission. That's how what kept me focused when I was selling cars, is that I always thought that somebody wanted it as bad as I did or needed it more than I did. That's what kept me focused. And I'm thinking, man, if I got somebody that's hungry, that's got to pay for their commission, their kid's sick or whatever, they're going to do everything legally, ethically, morally speaking to sell that appointment or sell that car. And I'm just going to try to send them a text message once in a while? No, I got to embrace all opportunities given to me. Yes or no? And I apologize, I'm passionate. I've been doing this for 26 years. Somebody just called me the OG of CRM last night. I was dead. So we were hanging out, just prepping for today, and I was like, well, they're right. When I first got into the business, we didn't have CRMs. We had paper, desk log, and highlighters. Anybody remember those days? The manufacturers used to fax us the leads. Yes, I'm that old, okay? And we've seen it evolve, and we're so close. Look at this room. Like, there's so many of you here just in this region to get this knowledge. This wasn't like this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, et cetera. You guys at least know that CRM is important. Everybody I spoke to this morning, asked them, hey, how are you doing? What are you looking to get? I just want to get better. I just want to find out how to set this thing up. I just want to be able to use this. I need to use this. I love this. Here's another one. This store right here, this is a Toyota dealership in Ohio. They only have 4 reps, and they're selling 146 cars. That is crazy. Look at this. They made a total of 11,345 outbound calls to connect with only 1,000. Look at that. 8.9%. That's it. You've got to realize if all you're doing is phone calling, and put this in perspective, what you're seeing here for the last 3 slides. A lot of you have processes that are incomplete. How are we setting up these processes that are deficient, that have limited outbound calls, outbound emails, and expecting our people to be productive? We're like, how come there's no appointments? How come there's no deals? Because the activities don't warrant that. Does that make sense? Okay, that's really kind of tragic. Invest in your people and your CRM. They are the greatest assets for the organization. The key difference from dealership to dealership is their people and processes, yes or no? It's the only thing different. If you were a Toyota dealership or a Ford dealership or a Hyundai dealership or whatever type of dealership, I think that there's Jaguar and Land Rover over here. Where's she at, right? So again, it doesn't matter what franchise you are. There's other people that are selling the same franchise. So what's different? The only thing different is the people and the processes, your mission, vision, values, right? And this is the opportunity for you to be able to articulate your mission, vision, and values in your CRM. I don't understand how we spend so much money on everything, and then we just neglect the CRM and the people managing the CRM. That needs to change. That culture, that paradigm needs to change. It's got to be people and process first. And if you do, you're going to see yourself making a lot more money. Okay, why is that 90% of dealers' CRMs are not set up correctly, not trained correctly, utilized correctly, managed correctly, evolved correctly? Why? So with only taking like a minute or so, I believe because there's a lot of misunderstanding. Starting with, here's a thing, Ford, right? How many Ford dealerships are here? Okay, good. True or false? Most manufacturers, they don't have a certification and a mandate that you have to sell the cars this way. They might do the walk around, here's the way that we recommend doing a walk around, but the meet and greet, how do you up a customer? How do you qualify the customer? How do you do product selection, features and benefits, walk around presentation, demonstration drive? Usually that's not forced and certified by the manufacturer. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Here's what I'm going to correlate towards the CRM. Same thing for the CRM company. They can offer you training. Cox Automotive can give you information. Their performance managers are very experienced, but their main training is buttonology. Does that make sense? It's how do you set up the tool? How do you use the tool? Here's the one big thing, and I got to jump to go live here for a second, but I want to just make this point. The challenge is this. A lot of us don't customize the processes. The CRM company is going to ask you what processes do you want to use, and most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, we on the dealer side tell them, I'm not really sure, what do you recommend? And they try to be kind and be helpful and put a process in there. It's usually a generic process because to turn around and do this the right way takes somebody that's going to reverse engineer each and every situation: internet, showroom, BDC, service, acquisition, F&I, special finance, service. Does this make sense? So unless somebody takes that time to map out each process, what do you think is going to happen? We're going to just use what's readily available. What do you got? Well, let's just put this in there so there's something. Does that make sense to everybody? What I'm saying to you, if you take anything from my presentation today, make sure that you inspect the processes that are in the CRM. So I want to just go into this. So this is what I do. When I give free strategy sessions or CRM audits, one of the first things I personally do is go here, and then I look at this. First of all, look at all the processes that are here. These are my dealer synergy processes that are there. But let's kind of go through what the standard process was here, okay? So before they signed up with me, they would run it immediately, 2 hours, 1 day, 2 days, and then they're skipping day 3 for whatever reason. They do day 4. Then they skip from day 4, making phone calls, all the way to day 14, then skipping to day 17, and then day 24. Okay, so guys, this is real. There are Toyota dealerships that are here. There are Ford dealerships. There's Land Rover. There's Hyundai. If the manufacturers say that the average buying cycle before the pandemic was 83 to 87 days, and now because of the pandemic, the factory direct orders, the locates, the this, the that, we're pushing post 90 days. So if the average person is not going to buy for up to 90 days, if we are not following up with them for 90 days, we're missing the boat. Let me hammer this home with this next statement. Before the pandemic, right, 46% of people would purchase within the first 31 days. What does that mean? That means that the biggest 30-day segment is the first 31 days. We all know that, right? NADA says there's a direct correlation from response time to closing ratio, right? But what does that also mean? If 46% of people are going to buy in the first 31 days, it means that 54% of people are going to purchase in the next 32 to 90 days, for the next 60 days. So if we are neglecting, in this situation right here for this dealership, if they're spending thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in marketing and advertising, let me be clear. If they're spending 20, 30, 40, 50, $60,000 a month in advertising, they are throwing away over 50% of their marketing budget every month. Sean, what do you mean? Well, let's go through some basic math. If they generate 500 leads, but they're only following up with people for a little over 3 weeks instead of 3 months, we're only catching the low-hanging fruit. Does that make sense? There are people that are nowhere in hell possible of buying a car today. Do you understand that? Not everybody's instant gratification. We have to understand and respect building a pipeline, building a sales funnel. Does this make sense? Yes. But that doesn't make sense to me. The other thing is, if you look at the types of information in here, we know that prime time to connect on the phone is between 6 and 8 p.m. We track tens of millions of outbound phone calls. Again, prime time to connect on the phone is between 6 and 8 p.m. And some of you guys in the Chicago region, you are shutting your dealerships down at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. That's like, hey, Super Bowl. Thank you. I made it to the Super Bowl, but I'm not going to touch the field. I'll see you next year. Or that's if you close at 6. If you close at 7, it's like, hey, thank you. It's the halftime at the Super Bowl. I appreciate being here. I'm not going to touch the field for the second half, but I'll see you next year. It sounds utterly absurd, right? Then why is it not absurd for us on the dealership level? If we know that prime time is a certain time, why are we not open during those times? Whether it's automated open, or it's outsourced BDC open, or it's staffed normally open, you need to be where the people are going to be at the time that they're there. That's not mapped out. There's no activities in here that differentiate, from social media DMs or Apple FaceTimes or e-cards or any of those. It's just basic follow-up stuff. Okay, for showroom. Again, using the standard process that they had. We're going to follow up in 4 hours. You're going to follow up in 1 day, follow up in 36 hours, then 3 days, then 5 days, then 9 days, then 10 days. Then we skip from day 10 to day 14, and then day 19. So it's about 19 days. I think that we should follow up at least 30 days personally, and I would do a little bit more intricate, because remember, when somebody comes to your store and doesn't buy a car, in my humble opinion, that is one of the most sacred things. Somebody came into your house. You had full sight, sound, motion, and emotion. You had the whole signs of communication. You had the vehicle there. You had every possibility. If they leave that dealership and don't buy a car, but management thinks there's a deal there, why are we starting with a 4, 5, 6%, internet lead? We should be working those B-backs to death, yes or no? B-backs are one of the missed huge opportunities for dealers. I have an 11-year-old, Xander, shout out. He's an amazing kid except for one thing. He has a medical disability of finishing the liquid in a bottle of juice or can of soda. I open up my refrigerator, I see parents shaking their head, mine too. Yeah, I'm not alone. I go in, there's like all these bottles and cups and cans, and they have a half drunk, 3/4 drunk, an eighth drunk. And I'm like, my man, finish what's in the bottle before you open up a new one. And I have this conversation. He's a super cool kid, so I don't ride him too hard on it. But as far as you guys, it's the same thing. You're taking up, all these ups, but you're not maximizing the ones that you had before. It's like taking a sip, throwing it in the CRM. Taking a sip, putting it in the CRM. Taking 2 sips, CRM. Manager yells at you, go take that out. Take another 2 sips, and a big gulp, put it back in the CRM. I'm just advising you, what you want to be able to do is respect the reality of the carryover leads. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, now I'm going to show you one more, and I'm going to show you my tool. This one broke my heart. Sold delivered. We have managers in here. Okay, if someone buys a car from your dealership, the 1 day, 4 days, 1 month, and then 1 year, this is still not good, but it's not bad. I see some of the stores that it's on average, is what I see. Day 1, day 3, maybe day 60, and then 1 year later. So the first couple attempts is not normally bad. You guys usually get like day 1, day 3, day whatever. Then it falls apart. Then all of a sudden, the next time is a year later. And look, there's no if-then protocol. So if they don't magically get this person after their attempt in 1 year, right, then what's going to happen? The next time that you bother tracking is a year after that. So let me repeat this. So we've got day 1, day 4, 1 month, 1 year, and then 2 years. Does that make sense what I'm showing you? Look at the difference when we're coding stuff in. First and foremost, this is what happens if somebody submits an internet purchase request. We follow up for 90 days. The first 31 days are every single day for 31 days. And then if they don't answer, we change the bucket or the status to day 32 to day 90. So the first 31 days is intensive. It's, I'd say, aggressive, but it works. You got to realize the challenge that people have is they're like, oh, I don't want to upset anybody. I want to follow up too much. Here's where I'm going to quote Cardone. And I don't literally believe in the 10X thing where if I'm going to call somebody once, now it's 100 times. If I call them 100, 1,000. It doesn't necessarily need to be 10 times. But whatever follow-up you're doing, it's not nearly as much as you think it is. Because I want to give you some data. I just shared with you that the average connection is only what? It's about 7 to 8%. Okay, when you make an outbound call, 7 to 8%. So let's put some math as if you have a team, 10, 20, 30 sales reps or BDC reps. Now, sales reps are not going to be able to do this because they got to stop, do product presentation, demonstration, drive, delivery. But even if you had a BDC rep that's only doing phone calls and follow-up, right? If they're able to make 100 outbound calls a day, they're only going to connect with 7 to 8 people in an 8-hour day. That is crazy. Emails, on average, have a 2 to 4% read open rate. So the thing is this, what we do is like, okay, I want to give them an internet break. I'm going to follow up for 3 days, give them an internet break. That is what we used to do 10 years ago. We don't need to give them those breaks. We need to be able to have consistent follow-up. The second that they respond in any way, shape, or form, I disengage that aggressive follow-up, and it's on a case-by-case basis. I'm only using that methodical follow-up to escalate from lead or prospect to engagement. Do you understand? That is a key word. If you guys write that down, it's about engagement. We've got to stop trying to just touch people or email people or text people or call people. And no. We need to escalate that lead from a lead to engagement as quickly as possible. Does that make sense? The FCC TCPA guidelines for text messaging does not apply to Apple FaceTimes. It does not apply to social media DMs. There are no laws that are going to prohibit you from doing a social media DM. So you got to ask yourself, why are we not leveraging different forms of communication? Now, I could say that as a high-level trainer, hey, use social media DMs. Good luck with getting your people to do it if it's not coded into your VinSolutions action plan, right? At least if we have that protocol built right in here in the activity, they still might not do it, but at least if I'm able to show my team, hey guys, here's how I want you to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, what we want you to be able to do is call a prospect. If they don't answer the phone, leave a voicemail message. If you got text opt-in permission, text them. If they don't respond to you in 15 seconds or so, then do a social media DM. All I'm doing is I'm increasing my probability. Now let's look at the other coding here. See this? Send social media DM. These are tier 2 forms of communication. Video emails, video text messages, Apple FaceTime, Skypes. And then look at this right here. Okay, I'm going to read this to you. This is the third phone call attempt of the day. I only do 3 attempts on the first day. And so look, make sure this call is made during a different shift, either 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Let me explain. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. is a big window, but it's not prime time. Much smaller window is from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's only 2 hours. And here's the problem. When we audit things, this is going to shock you. Let's say I go into Chrysler of Lawrenceburg and I'm auditing Sam or what have you, and let's say Jenna is the prospect on a 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee, right? And I'm looking at the customer dashboard, I'm reconciling, and I'm noticing she's not reached out one time after 6 o'clock. That's not true, I'm making this up, right? But think about that. How do you have an agent, a sales rep, a BDC rep, and or a manager that doesn't pay attention to like, well, wait a minute here. We've been following up with this lead for 30 days or 40 days, and not one time did we try to reach out after 6 p.m. during the prime time. Does this make sense? That's what we need to do. That's what's going to make CRM better, is if we set up the processes and we set up the activities and we set up the intelligence and the strategy to how to do business today, not 5 years ago, not 10 years ago, not 20 years ago, but in 2024 going to 2025. There's a lot more that I could go into, but this is like sensory overload. I want to be able to just make sure that you all understand that CRM is incredibly important, incredibly strategic if we use it the right way. Thank you.
Listen, if you don't have access to Bradley On Demand, you're missing out on crucial information. The top automotive groups like Coons, Lithia, and Norm Reeves have all used Bradley On Demand to train their teams. And guess what? The world's #1 car salesman, Cody Carter, shares his exclusive strategies right here. You want his secrets? You gotta have Bradley On Demand. Stop waiting and start winning. Dominate your market. Click the link and get access now.